Men are not the prize. I've been thinking about this a lot, that phrase. When you hear that phrase, I do think it is almost like a walking advertisement for people to accuse women of hating men, being male-centered. What the argument that I've heard people say is that if you're saying that men are not the prize, you're just as bad as men who don't value women, because women don't value men who say that men aren't the prize. Right. But my argument is I see the phrase men aren't the prize as a hyperbole. It's not necessarily literally agreeing with that sentiment to the extent of saying that men are not valuable or dehumanizing men's experiences or dehumanizing men in general. That's not what I'm saying. It is to say that, and we live in a society where a lot of conservative viewpoints point towards like men being providers and men having access to forms of protection that women don't have. That's when it almost allows us to kind of prioritize the men in our lives, making them the prize. And for me personally, when I say a man isn't the prize, I mean that, again, decent to men, it's not all about men. But also when I say like men aren't the prize, it really is coming from treasuring yourself. You are the treasure, not men. Men are always uplifted in ways that women are not always uplifted. So I hate it when people are like, oh, men aren't the prize. You say you're a feminist, and in that same breath you're saying things that is antagonistic towards men, and you're making men seem like they're trophies when you claim that women also feel like they're trophies because of the way that men talk about women. No, it's actually different. Men aren't the prize was a literal statement that people at face value meant. That would be more of a derogatory term, dehumanizing these men. I've said men aren't the prize so much because like if you're not centering a man, then you are moving in the world for yourself, and I think that's so important. For an example would be Love Island season 8. Let's pull up the receipts, guys. I've been watching Love Island season 8, and I feel like men aren't the prize is a sentiment that I've kept in my head for what that season didn't do, for what that season did not accomplish. Right, the only woman from that season that really accomplished that sentiment would be Kenzie. I feel like all the women on that season moved in consideration of the people that they were partnered up with, which were men, in detriment to themselves. I want to say it in a way that's respectful because I don't want to, you know, like diss anyone or say that anything about anybody, because if I meet these people in real life, like that would be awkward. These were the couples that won Love Island. This have Kata, Zach, Trinity, Bryce, Melanie, Sincere, Anaya, Carl. While I was watching Love Island, something that I noticed is that at every turn, the women would prioritize the men's feelings and then change their behavior in consideration of the men. So when the men would complain, right, the men would say, you hurt me this way, you would see a change and shift of behavior from the women in response to the men pleading and giving out their grievances and concerns about some of the women's behavior that they didn't really agree with. And I had no problem with that, watching that, because I think that shows respect. However, the respect was not reciprocated, because every one of these people who made it to the finale, when it was time to show the women who also had grievances and also had problems that they were going through in Love Island, at the time, they never showed the women the same sort of courtesy. And this is where I say men aren't the prize, because if we operate from the idea that like choosing a man or getting picked by a man or etc are the prize, then we're eliminating that factor of respect for women in general. I don't know, I just want to have like a kind of girly chat, because I love using like actual media to kind of talk about my points, because like that's all I watch up in this. That's all I watch. I have someone like Melanie and Sincere and their dynamic, and you see that Melanie changes her behavior to satisfy Sincere's concerns because she messes up early on in the season, is more considerate of Sincere's feelings. When at every turn Melanie has asked Sincere, the man, to do the same thing for her, he still chooses himself. He still says, I have to explore, I have to do what I have to do to make sure that I have a great experience. And there wouldn't be anything necessarily wrong with that if it did not come to the detriment of the woman who at a baseline, right, the woman is consistently being considerate of the man's feelings. Maya and KC's story, she was with a man who like did not appreciate her, and she only found out about it after he brought back another girl to recouple with. It was a whole thing of Anaya putting her feelings on hold to be respectful towards the person that she was coupled up with, and he did not do the same thing. And it's not necessarily the fault of the men, because the men are going to do what the men are going to do, right? But it is kind of, again, really on an individual to be like, I have to move for myself. Because this is not a video to like fault the men. If I wanted to make a video on that, I would. But it is to say that this is why I say men are not the prize, because you see each one of these women who made it to the finales are treating these men like they're the prizes. Maybe one woman isn't, but most of these women are treating these men and constantly calling them and giving them that reassurance that they're not receiving back, which is cool if that's their personality, yeah, sure. But it's like, again, it is feeling like these men are being held up to the idea of them being prizes, and the men are not giving the same sort of courtesy. And it's such a hard season of Love Island to watch because of that. I feel like a lot of these girls threw away their self-respect for a man. And you don't often see men throwing away their self-respect or their values, morals for a woman. It's not equal. It's not an equal playing field, but there's almost like an expectation that women have to do that. So when you center around like decentering men and maybe again, my kind of version of it, that hyperbolized version of men are not the prize, I just feel like it's so much more harmless, and it's so much more freeing to think of it that way, as in like, you have your own self-respect and I have my own self-respect. I'm not going to censor a man in my life. Even when I get a partner, like, that man is not going to be the world to me, and I'm not going to always consider him. I'm going to consider my values and my self-respect first, because I do come first, and then I will move accordingly when, commitment escalates in a relationship between me and a man as well. But it's like, as far as like I'm concerned, I'm going to be moving for myself, because the man will do the same thing. Which is basically this video. I don't know. I wanted to make the video because I thought about Love Island, and I thought about how like a lot of these girls weren't even dating these men, and they gave so much of themselves up for these men, just for these men not to reciprocate. And I just feel like it does feel like sometimes men are coddled. Sometimes men are seen as so much more above women, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand. Let me know what you think about this. This was a very short video because I just kind of want to talk and test out new equipment. I like the lighting. I think the lighting's kind of cute. I think she's gonna subscribe if you want to have a chat. What do you think about the argument of like men aren't the prize?